Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Nick Vic Locks. Tonight is a kind of a request video, but a little more in-depth cover of a topic that we've gone over before in the How to Pick a Lock series. We have a video talking about tensioning locks and pick selection, but this is going to be a little more geared toward approaching keyways or more paracentric keyways. Somebody had asked if I could discuss or talk about Y1 or Yale keyways, as well as more paracentric ones, or locks that have good, bad, however you want to relate that type bitting. So here we are. So we have a AIS, we'll zoom in a little bit here. This is an E60. Have this ASA M-Tech, ASA Abloy M-Tech with a Schlage keyway. Some Yale type keyways. This is a Dexter. Kind of a semi-cross between a Quickset and a Schlage. This lovely MXC lock. Talk about this in a minute. We'll talk about this here in a minute. But let's go ahead and start with the Schlage, since it's a fairly simple lock, common. There we go. We'll get that locked in. Maybe, sort of. There we go. Cool. Still work. Yep. Great. All right. So when we go to the lock, so I'm not going to talk about whether we're going to tension top of bottom or top of keyway. We're going to assume at this point you're almost exclusively using top of keyway tension. So we're just going to talk about pick placement, pick selection, and dealing with the warding within the lock. So if we notice on this lock, picking from the bottom, the slant here wants to push our pick up and then hit the edge of the warding on this side. And wants to push it off because our pins are resting here on this ledge. So picking from the bottom is very difficult, especially when you're using a 25,000th hook. So what I will do is come here on the side. Some people will use a second tensioner or bottom of keyway tensioner. 40. Throw that in there, block up that space within the keyway. Give you a little platform to pick off of and prevent your pick from falling down to the bottom. So go in and pick there. But what that can do is that can rob you of a little bit of feedback. And if you ever pay close attention to the videos when I am picking locks, I'll do this with almost every lock. But it works pretty well here, is I'll kind of come in at an angle and you'll see me rotate my pick like a flag and then lift the pin. Almost like I'm picking up at an angle. But you'll see me kind of do this little like wiggle with my pick before you see me actually use a lever type motion when we go through it. So that's how I go after the Schlage keyways here. That. Then if I think there's a high lift, I'll come up onto that ledge fully. Use that as a fulcrum almost, or if we're using a short hook, a little extra reach with it. All right, that's how I approach Schlage. Now we'll go, let's go with this Yale style here. This one's a little larger of a keyway. And because of the larger keyway, we put our 40. We can tension either direction. Now, with the shape here at the top, we're going to have better grip and leverage going clockwise on it than we are going counterclockwise. Because if something moves or slips, it's going to fall out super easy, whereas on this side, it's less likely to drop down. So, same thing on the Schlage when we come in here trying to pick from the bottom. We can get up at those pins even with a 25,000th hook. But we're rubbing against the warding here and here. So, hands out the way and we can see it here. And that can rob us of feedback within the lock or the pins. Now you can just kind of come here on the side and just try to nudge them up. But you're probably going to want to pick off of this bit of warding right here, this edge. Come in on that and pick. Now, with this keyway, I don't really feel like I have much of an issue with my pick wanting to slide or drop off like we do with the Schlags. But if that's something you're worried about, just like before, you can always throw something in there to just take up space to block off that bottom of the keyway. Because if we're picking off this ledge, nothing below that ledge matters. It's all negative, useless space. So you can throw that in there and not worry about if your pick wants to try to slide and fall in there. But and again, if you watch how I'm picking, my pick's going in almost sideways and then I'm turning it up and lifting. We're going to click up. There we go. That should be 1. Set 2 feels good. 3 feels good. 4 feels good. 5. Let's see. Probably 1. There, we just dropped everything in the process. Whatever, not important. So on this one, this BSS, there we go. Has a little bit of a tighter keyway. I'm going to show here at the top. So when we put our tension tool in there, can't really go at the very top like we did on the last lock. So we're going to go here at an angle. And because of that, it's going to be easier and give us better leverage to go in the counterclockwise direction as opposed to clockwise. Tensioning clockwise here with this, since we don't have anything to really grab a hold of, if we let off tension slightly, our wrench can drop down. So we go from here. Try to get that to stay in focus. Let off tension and it'll slide down, which is then going to occlude this part of the warding and keyway here. Because just like on the last lock, picking from the bottom, it's going to be a little more restrictive and difficult with the two wardings here sticking out, robbing us of feedback and kind of twisting our pick. So just like before, we're going to be picking off of the side here to go up. Now on this one, you can see that my pick's going in straight. I'm kind of turning and lifting in the opposite direction. So those are bad advice for the Yale style keyway. All right, let's take a look at this Dexter here. So, just like with the Yale keyway, picking from the bottom is going to be really difficult, robbing us of feedback unless we drop down in thickness. So that was 25. If I go with the 23, that's still going to be a little too big to pick from the bottom. We go 19. That's doable. That's not going to be optimal. We could go 15 thousandth, and that's going to give us next to no problems reaching those pins. Maybe a slight rubbing and restriction, but we're definitely not going to be dropping down to 10 thousandths, even though that would be zero problems at all. So we're just going to keep going and assuming with the 25 thousandth hook. So we're going to be picking off of the ledge here, which is, again, everything below that becomes negative unused space. We can throw a bottom of keyway in there as a platform just to keep us from sliding off. But with the proximity of this second ledge sticking out and how wide this one is, we shouldn't have any issues with our pick falling or sliding off of that. Shouldn't be able to go in and just have all the movement you want to get around within there to reach those pins. Whether you're going counterclockwise or clockwise, that won't matter with this one. With the top of the keyway being the shape that it is, we can do whatever's comfortable. All right, let's talk about this thing. This is the MXC or MCX, whatever you want to call it. So clearly can't go from the bottom. Even if we drop down to a 10,000th of a hook, that ain't gonna work. So option one is we can pick off the ward in here, kind of come up at an angle, but that's not going to allow us optimum reach on those pins. So we're going to come off of the warding on this side, and that's going to allow us to lift those pins to max height if needed. So we're going to do here. So it's just finding where we can place our pick to get to those pins and get those lifted up. Now on this lock, if we had max and min lifts in it, the minimum lifts, we might want to come down here on this second warding with a little bit of a thinner pick, maybe a 20 or 19, and try to set those minimum lifts from down here. And then go back for the higher lifts. Unless it's a really, really, really restrictive keyway, there's really not a whole lot of reason to go any smaller or thinner of a pick than a 19,000. Very rare and specific circumstances in which you're going to need to go to 15,000 or lower. So we get to this lovely AIS E60 that I hate. So just like before, we can't go from the bottom. This here's our 15,000th. That ain't gonna work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick from this wording here. We can get to that with a 25,000th. So the thing to remember with this, you can look at the key to figure it out too. We think this top wording here is this cut. This wording here on the other side of the key is this cut. If we look in the lock, we can see that the pins are resting on that wording or this ledge here. So what that tells us is the pin has to pass through this cut here. The pins have to be able to go through here in order to rest here. So that means that wording is drilled through for each pin. So we can pick from this wording and not have to worry about trying to like twist and go in at an angle and rotate up, or necessarily worry too much about placement of our pick as to where the pins are. Because if we can't go any higher than, we find it, that, you're going to hit the warding. But if I don't have warding and it's just a pin, we're going to have a lot more movement with the angles of which our pick can go whenever we're on a pin, because we're not pushing on warding. But locks like this, where it is drilled through there, it's really important that you at least understand spacing of the pins within the lock, or where they are, what it feels like, so you're not pushing on that warding and run the risk of bending your pick or damaging it. Oh, yeah. So, and because we're picking off of this ledge, everything below that is negative unused space. This is flat, so we're not really worried about our pick sliding off. So you don't have to put a platform or anything in here to prevent sliding or block it up if you don't want, but it does give you the option to use bottom of keyway if you wanted, to at least allow you visualization of the pins up top, if that's something you're wanting. Throw that in there, and then we can just pick it. I haven't really done much with this particular lock. It might benefit more from a steeper hook. Yeah. All right. Last two examples. So I said it is very rare and very specific circumstances that you're going to need a thinner pick. This is one of them right here. There it is. And the reason is this is the chain key. Lovely, floppy, bendable key. Because the keyway of this lock is a snake or an S. Yep. So, because the keyway is curved, you're not really going to be able to get something thick in there. It's not going to bend. So that's when you need the really thin ones. This one was a curved reach thing. I don't know, whatever. I filed and sanded it down. It's about 10 to 12 thousandths now, and it will allow me to get into that lock. None of my other picks will. So this is the rare circumstance in which you're going to need something thin to get in there, and then trying to figure out how to tension it. Here's what I found. This is the Reaper bottom of keyway set, but you can use anything that has a short little foot on it there. It goes in, and you can tension that whatever direction you want. There we go. Boom. There it is. So that was my solution for tensioning, because they all have the little hole in the bottom for the little detent here on the key to catch. And then the last nasty looking keyway that I have, other than, weird, like this is a Miwa ZU9 DS, but shouldn't be too difficult to kind of figure those out, is this. This is an AIS D12. And this particular one is actually a challenge lock that was made by HJ called D3. But yeah, here, look at this keyway. You want to learn the best way to pick that? Go watch Georgia Jim's video, because I ain't picked this thing yet. Never picked a regular D12, but yeah. Figure out how to pick it on a challenge lock. So again, I'm going to go top of keyway on here. So here's the issue with this one. All right. So if we take a look at our key, like we talked about in the last one, this warding here corresponds to this channel. So if we look at the key, our pins come down to that channel. And if we look in the lock, it's kind of hard to see, but the pins are resting on this warding. They don't go down any further than that, so this is not drilled. We can't pick up through it. The way that this C shape is, we can't really get in at an angle too well. That's the 25, 23. Still doesn't let us really get up there. Just kind of catches there, wedges between them. We get the 19, about the same problem. We got a 15. And it's just that where this comes past this warding here, that's where the issue is. You can see this and these cross each other. And that's where the issue comes. So trying to pick from the side will not work. We could probably do it with a 10, maybe. But yeah. So what I've been trying unsuccessfully with this lock is, I got it from the Georgia Jim video. He was using the Covert Instruments tubular pick. It's basically like a flat rod. But he'd go in and kind of wiggle it, get under those pins, a little wiggle, try to set the low set pins or minimum lift pins, and then go back and try to set the higher lift pins. So in, rotate, and kind of go from there. Yeah, if we don't slide off the side. And that's the other issue. So it might be something where it's beneficial to put something there to stop you from sliding off. as we're working through that lock. Yeah. And I found that a very, very short hook works really well. Or the problem is with this one that I made, because of the curve with it, trying to get in there, I can't really go too far until that curve starts to come into play, and I can't push it anymore. And as you can tell on this one, we have some near zero lifts or true zero lifts, and then max lifts here in the back. So that becomes a pain. But like I said, I haven't picked this lock yet. I've been trying unsuccessfully, but yeah. So this is my approach and thoughts on dealing with paracentric keyways. Slight thoughts on dealing with high-low alternating bitting that may cause issues. So, yeah. Hopefully that was helpful and answered some questions or cleared some things up. Yeah, I don't really have anything else for this video. So thanks for watching. Nobody told you. You matter. You're important. I'm glad you're here. Y'all have a good night.